And with that, coming to the HSC stage next, Patrick Spachelski, welcome to the show, our favorite GTM engineer. And speaking of N8N and Clay, welcome.
Much appreciated. Yeah, probably going to be a little bit more praising of N8N on this one as well. So maybe a bit of redundancy, but hopefully some new stuff too.
What a wild card. Let's get into it.
Awesome. Well, sounds good. Well, again, hello everybody. I'm Patrick Spachelski, co-founder of The Kiln. We are an agency that implements AI tools like Clay and N8N to go-to-market teams to create efficiencies, ideally drive more pipeline. And we've been using a lot of AI agents as of recent. And so I figured this would be a good stage to talk about what we've been using AI agents for, what tech we've been using to set up and actually, deploy our AI agents. And I figured I could show a few kind of like real life use cases that we've been using to, actually put AI agents to use. There's a lot of, I feel like there are a lot of LinkedIn posts every day that I see of like crazy workflows people build with AI agents, but I often wonder how many of the like how often those are actually used. And so I just wanted to show a few use cases of kind of real life situations in which we've been using AI agents. So I will share my screen. The first thing I'm going to do is walk through just a few tools that I think are super useful and have been really valuable for us and our clients, and I recommend everybody check out. And then I'll show how we've been using those tools and some more like granular use cases. Okay, you can see my screen, Julia. Awesome. Okay, so going to quickly walk through these pieces of tech and then going to walk through a few ways in which we actually use them. So this first piece of tech, first tool that we use quite a bit internally is called Exa.ai. For people who haven't heard about it, it is an incredible AI agent platform. We use it specifically for lead sourcing for a lot of our clients. It's really good at list building and it uses AI agents to do so. So you'll see kind of shortly how we use it. But for those who have used things like Apollo or ZoomInfo, think of it as almost the next iteration of that platform, but powered by AI agents. The next tool that we're planning on using is Clay. We use Clay a ton. For those who don't know what it is, it's probably best described as a go-to-market enrichment and workflow and sequencing platform. So it's can find really niche data at scale for people, or companies can find essentially any publicly available data on a person or a company at scale. And you can use it for a variety of awesome workflows, which we'll dive into shortly. The next one, to Julia's point earlier, is N8N. We are huge N8N users over here. We think it's an incredible tool, and it's a really great way for non-technical people and technical people alike to use AI agents easily. And then the last one we'll show is Lovable, which I think was also mentioned in the last chat. But again, we cannot say enough good things. It's honestly an incredible tool. So I wanted to quickly just walk through, in my mind, some things that AI agents can do right now really well. I think at least what I see on LinkedIn are people kind of pushing the boundaries of what AI agents can or cannot do. But oftentimes pushing the boundaries is not what like mid-market and enterprise companies optimize for. They optimize for something like guaranteeing the ability to work. And I think, when you're building out a workflow with AI agents, it's usually best to build something that works consistently. And so I wanted to show off a few things that we have found work consistently. So the first thing that I wanted to show was just how Exa works from a high level. It's probably the most basic of the tech that I'm going to show. It's very intuitive and easy to use. You literally just give it natural language, and Exa will deploy a series of AI agents to go find a list of companies that match that criteria. So I forget if I've logged into the right account, but regardless, you'll be able to see the functionality of how this works. I literally just said, I want to find SaaS companies based in New York City that recently made an acquisition. And Exa will go, and the way it works from a high level is it'll source that initial list of companies that based on basic firmographic data. So for example, SaaS companies based in New York City, like you could go figure that out using Apollo. And then it will deploy AI agents to go crawl every single one of the company's websites, LinkedIn profiles, news articles about the business, and then figure out whether they made an acquisition or not. And then programmatically delete the ones that don't match the criteria you're looking for and leave you with a larger list of the companies. So it's been super useful for us specifically for running kind of like micro campaigns to target audiences. So if we're reaching out to thousands and thousands of people or companies, X is usually not the best way to do it so far, just because we found the AI agents are really good at sourcing kind of these smaller lists of businesses. But if you're trying to find a very specific niche group of companies, I would highly recommend giving it a go. It's been pretty awesome. So that in the cases that we've used it for so far. The second thing we've used AI agents for a ton are doing automated research on prospects, like accounts and contacts. So I'm in Clay right now. You can see Clay has a very spreadsheet-esque format. And Clay has a feature called Claygent in the platform. And Claygent is their clever, naming for an AI agent that can go do research for you on a specific company. So you can see here, I have a Clay table. I have a list of companies. They're all Fortune 500 businesses. And I'm looking to do research on whether they have made a carbon commitment, explicitly to the public that we can find. So I went into Claygent. I was very easily able to prompt Claygent to just give it context. You're tasked to figure out if a company has a public commitment to low and carbon initiatives. You give it an objective, you give it some instructions, and Clay even has an AI that will allow you to generate this prompt for you so you don't have to type it out. And then when you press run, it will go and do research for you. And it'll even tell you the steps it takes to go figure out how it found this information. So you can research very niche, nuanced data on companies that previously were not available to do research on before. This can be super valuable. I mean, you can imagine if you had to do this for a list of 500 companies manually, it would have taken a ton of time. And now agents can do it for you at scale really quickly. So that was a really cool use case I wanted to demonstrate. A second use case that we found for AI agents are not only doing research on companies and returning it to you, but actually making high level assumptions and predictions based on that research. So in this table, what I was attempting to do was create a custom software at scale, connecting Lovable, which we'll show you later, to a Clay table, allowing you to create essentially like thousands of pieces of software at scale at one time. But I had to figure out what I wanted to create for each one of these companies. Like the idea was to import a list of companies, figure out what piece of software to build for them, and then send a prompt for that software to Lovable. So I use Claygent once again to go do research on this company and then actually generate a solid software idea on something that would add value to their company and then create a prompt on it. So not only is it doing research on the company, but it's also making these like high level abstractive decisions and strategies based on the information found on these businesses. And it ended up being a really cool project. And, I was able to, using Lovable's API, create like dozens of pieces of software at scale. Maybe I can even pull one up if they haven't expired yet. Let's see here. So yeah, like using the prompts generated by Claygent, I was able to create individual pieces of software for each one of the companies. So this was a company called Emitter. We created an AI dashboard for their company specifically. I have no idea what Emitter does. I have no idea what this dashboard does. Can't describe it to you. AI made it, but it's pretty cool. Okay, so we've covered now that AI agents can source leads for you. They can do research for you. They can make high-level abstractive decisions based on research for you. So what I next wanted to show is that you can both create your own AI agents, train your own AI agents, and they can actually take actions within tools for you. So this is another thing that we've built for a client of ours where we've built an MCP client on top of Exa. So you saw Exa and what it does, but we wanted to figure out a way for our client to communicate with Exa in Slack and have an AI agent essentially prompt Exa to do things for us. So in theory, and actually in practice, now that this workflow is active, what this workflow will do is you can send a Slack message saying, hey, Slack bot, I want you to go find me a list of 50 companies that match this criteria. And an AI agent that we've prompted will essentially process the JSON prompt that we've parsed out from back here. And it's trained on an MCP client that we've built specifically on top of Exa. And it has a memory, so it's able to figure out, what other prompts that we've sent in the past, and we've connected an OpenAI chat model to it. And then it will send back via Slack a list of all of these companies. So you now have a lead sourcing model built into Slack that can find you contacts and accounts, and you don't ever have to leave the Slack platform. So the main thing I wanted to highlight here is the fact that AI agents, if you build an MCP, like a model context protocol, can actually interact with tools themselves. So instead of just doing research and scraping the internet for you, you can actually have it go actually like act upon tools. Like you can make an AI agent that acts in Notion or acts in Slack or even sends out emails using an email sequencing tool. And so super powerful if you're able to create these. And this is, by the way, an N8N, which I would highly recommend. You can see some of these workflows can get, this isn't even like even a crazy workflow for N8N, but it can get pretty wild, the stuff you can build in the tool. So the very last thing I wanted to show that AI agents can do, actually, I think the second to last thing, is that they can also pretty much replace entire aspects of a company or a job that you would otherwise have to hire for. And so you can see this is a very basic N8N workflow, but what is actually underlying this workflow is somewhat complex. So we used to have copywriters on our team, and a problem with having a copywriter on the team was mostly the fact that when a client wanted copy written for a campaign that was urgent, we would have to wait a really long time to get that copy back. And the copywriter, oftentimes in the beginning days of our agency, was me. And I didn't have the bandwidth to be writing copy for these clients. I had other things to do. And so it would end up getting done a lot slower. So I was able to train this AI agent on the copy examples that I had created. And it actually continues to train itself by sending all the copy that it writes to an Airtable, and then retrieving the memories, aggregating it, merging it, and then just constantly training itself using an Airtable database that we've created with copy. So if you're able to prompt these AI agents correctly, you can replace entire tasks or entire sections of a business that otherwise would have cost money and you've had to hire people for. So this has been a ridiculously valuable workflow for us and has replaced a lot of our general copywriting functions. Last thing I wanted to show is that AI agents can build apps for you. It's like it truly is like incredible the stuff you can build in Lovable. This is a super basic tool that I've built. I mean, it gets way more complex than this, but I built a clay table. I didn't want the client. I mean, in this case, it was just us, but like I was building out an MVP because essentially a client of ours was like, "Hey, this clay table is really cool. Like, I'm glad you built it for us, but it's really complex. Like, I don't want to have to go into this clay table and poke around with it. I feel like I'm going to mess something up." And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to build like a web app in Lovable that allows you to just throw in a LinkedIn profile URL. It'll send that URL to the clay table, and then it'll return all the information that the clay table yields you. So this was like a research tool that we built. And you can just use natural language to do this, and AI agents can pretty much take over and build entire apps and structures of code for you. And we've done everything that I've shown you. We've actually done for clients. Like they've paid us to build it for them, and it's worked for them and added a lot of value. So hopefully this is valuable, and I will, you know, leave it to any questions if people have any, or if we even have time for that. I don't know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrick. And yeah, one of the questions, can we talk about your clients and some cool use cases or more tangible ROI stories
Yeah,
early? Yeah.
totally. So our clients generally, just for context, are mostly mid-market to enterprise businesses and a lot of like high growth SaaS companies. So think of like the AI businesses that you see in the news a lot. A lot of those type of companies are the ones we generally seem to work with. So one great example of this is we were working with a company that was scaling really quickly, and they had hired 200 BDRs over the past like year and a half. And these BDRs were all essentially doing the same thing, which was researching prospects for half of their day and then reaching out to prospects for half of their day. And they came to us because they correctly had the assumption that the research they were doing was super inefficient and was taking more of their time than it should. These these BDRs were doing like 2 to 3 hours of research a day. And if you extrapolate that over 200 BDRs, you can think of how much time was actually being wasted cumulatively across the sales org. And so what we did is we interviewed everybody from like the head of sales down to like 5 to 6 of their top BDRs and asked them, what is the process you're taking when you're researching prospects before you reach out to them? And they all gave us kind of disparate answers, but we were able to find commonalities across all of them. And then we use those commonalities to build an AI agent, partially in Clay, partially in N8N, that allowed us to create research reports for these BDRs. So in short, they didn't have to do any of the research they were previously doing. They could spend all of their time selling. So this essentially doubled their sales output and sales efficiency immediately because we were able to replace the research function that these SDRs or BDRs were previously doing. And so that was like a really great real world use case of how to build them. Another great one is, as I mentioned before, we build a lot of clay tables and N8N workflows. Both of those things are very difficult to actually use. And some of these don't involve AI agents. Like maybe we're just building like an inbound enrichment tool, or we're cleaning up their Salesforce or HubSpot. Like those things don't involve agents all the time, but nonetheless are difficult to use. And so being able to build things like the MCP I just showed you that wraps, for example, Exa to source leads for you, or wraps a clay table we've built, allows the systems we build to actually be usable, which is also super helpful. The last thing I'll say is we've built some internal AI agents to help with writing outbound copy and running campaigns for us, which I mean, I'd say for like a GTM agency, the most tangible metric or return would be pipeline generated. And we've generated, I'd say, with at least with the AI agent built outbound platforms, at least a couple 100 million in pipeline for our clients cumulatively, and significantly more just across all the outbound systems we've used that incorporate AI as a whole. So it's been, yeah, truly a massive value add, it seems, for our clients.
Super inspiring. There's one question I'd like to address here. When you shift budgets in real time, how do you avoid killing a long-term play just because early signals underperform?
Sorry, could you say the first part of that? When you ship what in real time?
Yeah, when you shift budget in real time, how do you avoid killing a long-term play just because of, some mismatch with the early signals?
Yeah. So I would say with all of the clients we have, like again, I'd say most enterprise clients for the most part are quite conservative in their decision making relative to a startup that's fast moving, like move fast break thing sort of startup. And so almost everything we do is like I'd say subjectively pretty slow when we build them out. So like the examples I'm showing you in many cases are the result of us working with a client for like 7 to 8 months and them slowly weaning themselves off of another long-term system. So for example, that thing I just talked about where we built the research model and applied it to all of those BDRs, we only had like one or two BDRs using it at first. And then we're like essentially slowly weaning everybody off of it until they were using the new system that we had built. And there's two reasons for that. The first reason, of course, is just to prove that the system actually works and is valuable to them. If it's not, then there's no reason to wean everybody off of it. And the second thing is because oftentimes, like making a massive shift or a massive change in an org can kind of shake things up short term, and we don't want that to happen. So, like slowly having people use the system, I think, is pretty important, especially in larger organizations.
Our audience wants to know if there's any resources that where they could just take the basically next step to learn more about N8N workflows, some basic workflows, anything related to complex integrations. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So the first place I would look, and I still go on here and watch all of his stuff, is this guy Brandon Charleson. He has a YouTube channel. I don't know if maybe I can throw it in the chat.
Mhm.
Okay, I can. I'll throw it in the. I can only throw it in like the host and panelist section. I'm not sure how else to throw it
It's
in. But
okay. I'll pass it all.
cool. There's this guy Brandon Charleson. He is an N8N wizard. He is a cursor wizard. He's ridiculously good. He's a GTM engineer as well, and he has an incredible YouTube channel. I would recommend watching all of his videos. If you're interested in learning more about Clay specifically, they have a free online university called Clay University that I would check out. And there's another person, if you're looking more for like outbound related, how to use AI properly. There's a guy named Eric Nowaslowski who I recommend checking out as well. I will link his YouTube in the chat below. And Julia, feel free to pass it on. So, in short, honestly, YouTube is the best way to learn about this stuff. If you have a question about a specific thing in N8N, or maybe just even want an N8N like high level tutorial, there are so many people on YouTube talking about it, and I find the most value to be there, or Reddit.
Super helpful. Patrick, for all the executives watching, the hardest piece that, and we want to address it like on literally every session, is the transition to agentic scaling. Um, what would be your recommendation? Where do they start? How do they even start?
Yeah, so this is how we do it with our clients, and it seems to be the most well-received way of doing so, is find the most basic possible task you're doing manually that you think could be supplemented or completely automated by AI agents, and then go build that task out first, and then continue to do that in sequential order. I think a lot of people get really excited when they see LinkedIn posts about like AI, this AI agent replaced my entire marketing department, and people get like really excited. They're like, this is going to save me so much money. But in my opinion, significantly better to go to the most basic use case of using AI agents, figure out how to use those, and you'll figure out a few things. The first thing is the viability of AI agents to replace a certain task. I think people hype it up a lot. Like, I don't think you can replace your entire marketing department with an AI agent right now. I think that's a little past what it's capable of doing. So you're able to find out like kind of the extent as to what these things can do. And then you can also figure out what tools are best for building these systems out. Like the worst thing I think you can do is go on LinkedIn or YouTube or Reddit and then just get like the top 10 best tools. I mean, again, you should go on them, but then like get the top 10 best tools and just buy them all. Like buy like enterprise plans for all of them and just be like, okay, let's go start automating everything. Like I would use it for education purposes, but don't go and just like make massive brash decisions and implement AI agents everywhere. I think it's like make it a slow process. These tools are changing constantly. By the time you go from idea to execution, the tool you're using probably came out with like 20 different updates. So like, you know, I would just say start small.
Definitely. And one more question here from Steven. Thoughts on what tweaks to make for non-SaaS companies like manufacturing that need marketing, BD, sales efficiencies?
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of the systems we build actually apply directly to non-SaaS companies. Like there are some things that remain the same across industries. For example, like every salesperson is going to be doing research on their prospects. Every salesperson has to do some sort of enrichment, find contact information, and do outreach. Every salesperson is probably going to have to continue running in email threads, like to continue talking to people and prospects day to day. So I would actually argue a lot of the systems we build are can be used kind of industry agnostic. Um, I think SaaS companies are the ones using them the most right now because they're generally the most like progressive and move the quickest. But um, I think actually the biggest impact for AI agents can often be in industries that aren't in SaaS because we've just talked to these like massive publicly traded companies before that are still operating kind of in like the stone age from a GTM standpoint because they haven't changed anything in 20 years. So, even automating one aspect of their sales org will probably yield millions in value return. So I'd recommend just following the same path as everybody else in the AI agent space.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Always super insightful. And do you have a newsletter? What's the best next step for our community to support you?
Yeah, I would just say feel free to add me on LinkedIn. There's a link to my newsletter on my LinkedIn profile as well. But try to post as much as I can about the stuff we're building over there. And yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. Always a pleasure.